بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإنه لتنزيل رب العالمين نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين بلسان عربي مبين. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Qur'an mentions that it is, and most surely this is a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. The faithful Spirit has descended with it upon your heart that you may be of the warners, in plain Arabic language. So our topic will be the interpretation of the Qur'an, starting from this point that Qur'an was descended in plain Arabic language. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not throw up riddles on the people, and to make their lives miserable or sophisticated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended a Qur'an, descended a word which is comprehended by the people. It is clear, it is plain, it is simple. بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ. That means it is Arabic, simple, plain language. Tongue. Lisan is tongue. But it is an indication of the language. So this lisan in Arabian mubin, in another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions one more indication about this lisan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ. For sure, verily, we have made it easy. يَسَّرْنَاهُ, easy. بِلِسَانِكَ, with your tongue, or by your tongue, or in your tongue. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. The best interpretation is by your tongue, through your tongue. And in previous ayah, we mentioned that this tongue is what tongue? Arabic tongue. What language? Arabic language. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended the Qur'an in Arabic language and He made it easy. He made it easy. Of course, we have interpretation here that there are two levels. One is the easy level of the Qur'an and another one is difficult. So the other interpretation of that, even that difficult level of the Qur'an, we have made it easy through you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That means if there are verses, allegorical verses, they are allegorical verses to the people, but not to you, O Muhammad. To you, everything is simple. So you can tell the people those difficult ayat, you can tell them about it. You can simplify those ayat. So bottom line is, Quran is completely simple. The upper level is basic and simple, and the lower level, the hidden treasures, are complicated, but through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, they are also simple. So there is no complication in the Quran. The Quran is understood. The upper level is understood to us, and the deep level, these levels are understood by Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, or by the infallibles. So starting from this point, interpretation of the Quran is not difficult task. Yes, we might need some tools to understand the interpretation of the Quran. And that is why we are going to take so many practices and so many different types of interpreting the Holy Quran by the use of our great interpreters of the Quran, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, and our great mufassirin like Allama Tabatabai, Sheikh Nasir Makarim, and all these great interpreters of the Quran. What is tafsir, or the interpretation of the Holy Quran? In the opinion of Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khuy rahmatullah alayh, tafsir is seeking clarification of Allah's will and intention behind the words of His holy book. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us. Now we want to know, what does Allah mean by His words? What does He mean? Does He wants us to take the literal meaning or the metaphorical meaning? That is the question. So we want to know, oh God, when you say they will be looking, what do you mean by looking? Literal looking or metaphorical looking? That is they're trying to find out what is the intention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did Allah mean behind His words in the holy book. That is tafsir. That is the whole concept of the tafsir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the intellectual means to communicate with the people and did not throw riddles. We mentioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to make our lives miserable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to understand and learn. So if the whole Qur'an was complicated, then it's useless. No, Qur'an is not useless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was communicating with the people with their language, the language, lisan and Arabiyan, that language which was used to communicate in between people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the same language. Sayyid al-Khu'i says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create a system to communicate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not invent or brought a new system to communicate with the people. No. The same system which was used by the people, which was the Arabic language, the simple way of communication, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the same way. There's no complication here. But since Qur'an is the miraculous book, so beside the apparent meaning, beside the meanings which are understood by many regular Arabs, who like in that time, of course, nowadays everything has been messed up, But in that time, the Arabs would understand. When Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will talk, they will understand. Yes, there are times, the Prophet will take out the hidden meanings. Like for example, if you have this fruit cocktail, sometimes they make this fruit cocktail, and they have this, sometimes, it's fruit cocktail, but sometimes they have chunks of fruits underneath. It is a fruit cocktail, but they have these pieces of pineapple and apple and all these kind of things. So when you drink that fruit cocktail, alhamdulillah, you get satisfied. But there are chunks also hidden, and you try to put your spoon and take it out. So Qur'an is like that. Qur'an has beauty. It has upper beauty and inner beauty. It has upper energy and inner energy. So basically for people to understand the Qur'an, if they know the Arabic language and they know the arts of Arabic language, as we'll mention, it is not a big deal. They can understand the apparent meaning of the Qur'an. But when it comes to the hidden meaning of the Qur'an, yes, we need the infallibles, alayhi salatu wasalam. We need those people who, and the Qur'an was descended in their house. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, Fatimah al-Zahra salamullah alayha. They were there when the ayat were descended one after another. The whole lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Since the revelation started, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, they were there. Imam Ali and Fatimah al-Zahra salamullah alayha. And they taught Imam Hassan and Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. And Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, he taught one after another Imam Zainul Abidin until the 12th Imam Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. So now we need to understand this, that there are two levels of Qur'an. Because many times people, they say, oh, if you say Qur'an is easy, then why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that there is mutashabih? There are allegorical verses inside the Qur'an. People, they get deviated. People, they get distracted by the shaitan and they try to manipulate the ayat. So if everything was easy, why that happens for the lower level of the Qur'an, for the deep meanings of the Qur'an. So upper level is basic, is easy, but when you come to the deep level of the Qur'an, that's when you need a teacher. So Qur'an is easy. The upper is easy by understanding the arts of Arabic language, and the lower level, the deep level, the treasures, those you need people who know how to hunt this or how to dive and take these treasures out from. Because not everybody can take the treasures from underneath the things. So this is basically, Allah used the intellectual means to communicate with the people and did not throw riddles. The plain and easy system of communication which was available at that time. We mentioned بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ, we have made it بِلِسَانِكَ, through your tongue. Also Allah kept deep hidden treasures in the verses of the Qur'an which requires interpretation. So if we are not able to understand the deep meanings, that doesn't mean the Qur'an is useless. This is the response. Because many people, they say, oh, Qur'an requires mufassirin. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, contemplate, tadabbur, put your contemplate in the verses of Qur'an. So I cannot say, no, I cannot understand anything. Those meanings are just for the infallibles and the whole Quran is for them. No. The upper level, you are required to contemplate in the meanings of the Quran. Deeper level, yes, we are required to approach those who understood the deep meanings of the Quran. So this is very important, because if we say Quran is only for those people, so just we recite Surah Al-Fatiha on the Mayyit, on the deceased people, and do istikhara, that's it, that's the purpose of the Quran, putting on the shelf for the blessing, putting inside the car. Those Quran has miraculous powers, there is no doubt, but the Quran has a bigger purpose, bigger benefit, which is education. And there are two levels of education, the basic and the deep hidden treasure secrets. So that's why Quran is beneficial, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ فِي الْقُرْآنِ, that means don't they contemplate in the Quran? Every single person, Muslim, non-Muslim, every single person is required to contemplate in the meaning of the Quran. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns those people who do not contemplate in the Quran. So that means I am allowed to contemplate in the meanings of the Quran, or I am obligated to understand the Quran and the meanings of the Quran. So that is upper level. The second level, I am also obligated, but I need some help. I need some resources, and those are Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam and the ulama. So this is what we meant. Referring to the literal meaning of the Quran, referring to the literal meaning of clear and non-allegorical verses of the Quran is permitted for everyone and is not considered tafsir. We have this hadith, Man fassara ayatan bighayri ilm falyatabawwa maq'adahu min an-nar. Whoever interprets one verse without knowledge, a verse without knowledge, should choose a place in the hellfire. So I don't want to go to the hellfire. No, this is not. Look at the hadith. Man fassara, whoever interprets, interpretation, tafsir, verse of the Quran without background, knowledge background. When we are looking at the literal meaning of the Quran and trying to understand, it is not tafsir. When somebody says bilisan Arabiyyin, with the Arabic clear tongue, mubin, it is not tafsir. This is not tafsir. This is just, I'm trying to understand the meaning of the upper level of the Quran. So the literal meaning of the Quran, the apparent meaning of the Quran is not tafsir. So don't worry about it. Contemplate in it and try to find. And even the deep meanings, try to contemplate in it, but don't give a hukum. Don't give a judgment that Allah says this and it means this. No. You can say it is a possibility. It is a possibility. Like Sayyid al-Khuwi rahmatullah alayh, he says, when I was a child, I used to look into the ayat of the Quran and do tafsir in my mind. Like try to see the possibilities. This word could mean this, this word could mean this, this word could mean. There are sometimes Arabic word might have 4 or 5 meanings. So he says, I used to look at these different meanings. And then I used to refer to the tafsir of the great scholars and see which word was correct from my possibilities. So you are allowed to, in fact, you are encouraged, if you are not condemned to, we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns those who are not contemplating in the Quran. So you have to contemplate in the Quran, but do not give tafsir, that means definitive answer, unless you are sure and you have knowledge. That's what what these hadith they mentioned, the school of companion and school of Ahlul Bayt. Whoever does tafsir without knowledge should choose the hellfire. But what if you do tafsir with knowledge? Or what if you don't do tafsir? Don't go to this deep meaning. Understanding the literal meaning. Understanding the literal meaning is not tafsir of the Quran. So, referring to the literal meaning of the clear and not allegorical verses of the Quran is permitted for everyone, if not obligated, if not obligation, because we need to contemplate in the meanings of the Quran and not consider tafsir or interpretation. So, alhamdulillah, if you try to understand the literal meaning, you are on the safe side. What does literal meaning mean? Like you take a word and look into the dictionary. What are the literal meanings of this word? What are the literal? Thinking about that, looking into those words is not tafsir. You are trying to understand the language of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the language of communication. Literal meanings are taken into consideration if the attached or detached qarina, clue to the context, did not exist from the Quran, hadith or logical evidence. What is this? What is this clue? clue to the context. An ayah in the Qur'an tells you, fight the disbelievers. Okay? Number one. Now how are you supposed to go and chop off the heads of the disbelievers? No. This fight, there are conditions. There are another ayat which explain, fight those who fight you. So that means this fight is in self-defense. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says another ayat, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forbid you to fight those who did not fight you because of your religion, or they drove you out of your land. وَلَمْ يُخْرِجُوكُم مِّن دِيَارِهِمْ. Allah does not forbid you to be kind and just to them. أَن تَبَرُّوهُمْ وَتُقْسِطُوا إِلَيْهِمْ. So in one place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fight the disbelievers. Another place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fight those who fight you. See, this is the connecting the ayat together. And the third place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you are not prevented or you are not prohibited to be kind and just to those people who are peaceful with you. So from all this we connect that we respect every peaceful human being. But we fight those who fight us. We defend ourselves, you know. So see, if just you take that ayat out of the context, fight the disbeliever, we'll have problem. That's why there are people who are ignorant people, they don't understand the Holy Quran, they're fighting the non-Muslims. Many of them, they might be peaceful, just they want to fight them. This is wrong. This is completely wrong. This is not what Quran teaches us. So we have to, so that God does not forbid you, the ayah is a clue, qarina, to this context of the Quran, the whole meaning, the complete meaning of the Quran. Like for example, I'll give you an example of qarina, clue. If I say the lion is coming, okay, we are in jungle, people they will freak out. Oh my goodness, the lion is coming, you know. But when I give a clue to the complete meaning, because literally lion means that beast, but metaphorically it means brave man. So if I see a person coming who's brave, he's saying lion is coming, I have to use a clue to divert your mind to the metaphorical meaning. And that clue is called qarina. That clue is called qarina. So when I say the lion is coming and he's carrying bags of potatoes and bags of onions and all these kind of things, and you know he's carrying a backpack, that couldn't be a real lion. You know, see, your mind was diverted. So that's a clue. How do we use this in the Quran? Easy. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day of judgment, they will be looking at their Lord. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. They will be delighted faces on the day of judgment. إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا. To their Lords, they will be looking. نَاظِرَةٌ. Now this نَاظِرَةٌ, it has several meanings first of all. Looking or waiting. Waiting for their Lord, that means bounties of their Lord. Or they will be looking at the bounties of their Lord. So why do you put this word there? Because we have an ayat in the Quran, you know, where logic diverts the meaning. Because logic is used to divert the meaning from literal meaning to metaphorical meaning. How? The ayat which says, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةِ. Ask the city. Come on, how can I ask the city? The buildings and the shops, I cannot ask the city. You know, that's craziness. If I'll keep asking the buildings, people they'll tell me I have to go and see a shrink, you know, or I'll end up into mental hospital. What is a crazy guy asking? No, Allah told me to ask the city. Come on, you know. So it's not like that. It is ask the people of the city. Because logically, you cannot ask buildings. There's this word people. So it's a metaphor. That means people of the city. So when we say they will be looking at their Lord, logically, you cannot look at the Lord. Qarina, we have Quranic qarina, a clue from the Quran. La tudrikuhu al-absar, wa huwa yudrikul absar. The eyes can never capture him. This is Quran. So this is qarina, clue to that meaning. Ila rabbiha nadhira is telling no, they can. Allah says they cannot look at their Lord, and then they cannot capture their Lord. Nobody can capture Allah. And that ayat says ila rabbiha, that means there has to be something else. Hadith, authentic hadith, Nahjul Balagha. Imam Ali says, Inna Allah la yu'ayyanu bi'ayn. وَلَا يُكَيَّفُ بِكَيْفٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be said, where is He? Or how is He? Because He's not physical entity. So this is, Qur'an is a clue, Hadith is a clue, logic. Let's keep the Qur'an and the Hadith on side. One who created time, matter and space can never ever be under the domain of time, matter and space. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the cause of the existence of time, existence of matter, existence of space. So if matter is created by Allah, so how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be under the control of His effect? Effect can never ever be the cause of its cause. It's logically absurd. So that's why logically, when these people, they'll be looking at their Lord, how can they look at their Lord? How can God has to be physical in a place that my eyes can capture Him? And God is not like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ruh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in spirit. Nur samawati wal ard. He's everywhere without any physical body, physical material. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all this. So this is how we got this ayat as a clue, qarina, hadith and logic. So that's why we are saying that the qarina, it could be Qur'an, hadith or the logical evidence. And if we have to look for the qarina. So when you look at the literal meaning of the Qur'an, before judging that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to consider literal meaning, I have to look for the qarina in the Qur'an, in the hadith. And here comes the role of the scholar who understands the authentic hadith from non-authentic hadith. I'm talking about tafsir. But just understanding the literal meaning is not tafsir. I'm talking when you are trying to bring meanings together, trying to mix the ayat together, make a reaction between the ayats together and deduce something, that is tafsir. That is trying to find out different hidden meanings in the Qur'an from the Qur'an itself. The difference between the tafsir and ta'wil. There are some ulamas, they say tafsir is taking the literal meaning, ta'wil is taking the hidden meaning. Most of the ulama, including Sayyid al-Khuy, they said no. Sayyid al-Khuy says tafsir is not looking at the literal meaning. Literal meaning is not considered tafsir. Go ahead, look, contemplate into the literal meanings. Tafsir is when you go down. So based on this opinion, tafsir and ta'wil are same. Tafsir and ta'wil are same. And just relying on the interpretation of the Qur'an, just relying on the literal meaning of the Qur'an is not considered tafsir. It's not considered tafsir. Tafsir is when you bring the clues of context and everything together and try to find different meanings from inside the Qur'an itself. That is considered tafsir. So tafsir explains the outer, zahir meaning of the Qur'an. Ta'wil is considered by some to mean the explanation of the inner and the concealed meanings of the Qur'an, as far as a knowledgeable person can have access to them. Others are of the opinion that there is no difference between tafsir and ta'wil. Tafsir and ta'wil is same, Therefore, tafsir and ta'wil are same. What is mutashabih? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept this mutashabih in the Qur'an? Mutashabih is not to make the lives miserable. As I mentioned, there are literal meaning you can understand. But when you come to the tafsir, sometimes you end up into verses, you cannot understand the deep meanings of it. The deep meanings of it. So what happens here? Why? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to appreciate the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If everything is there, the book is there, you don't need the teacher, it's self-explanatory, then nobody will appreciate the teacher. But when things are not understood, people, they appreciate the teacher. Yes, there is a role for the teacher. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, being the teacher of the whole humanity, here we have a situation that if we don't understand, we will come to the Prophet ﷺ. That is to bring the Prophet up. Why shafa'ah? Can't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just forgive and put them into the paradise? No. So in order for people to appreciate, because if this person was not there, he wouldn't have helped us, interceded us, we would have been doomed in the hellfire. So people, they appreciate, this person is a great person. That we appreciate the Prophet ﷺ and his greatness. That's why when we find out that we need the Prophet, that's why when after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, we have to appreciate, we have to seek to Ahlul Bayt, because they have this great knowledge, and that's why they are also appreciated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to appreciate. So what happened after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, when Imam Ali ﷺ brought the interpretations of the Qur'an, all these kind of things, what did they say? They said, Hasbuna kitab Allah. Oh Ali ibn Abi Talib, we don't need you. Oh Ali ibn Abi Talib, Allah's book is sufficient to us. Why? Because if they show that Imam Ali ﷺ is the treasure of knowledge, he knows all the interpretations of the ayat of the Qur'an, tafsir, ta'wil, everything, people, they will start going towards Imam Ali, and they will abandon these people who were rulers of that time, and they were claiming the merits. So people, they will go towards Imam Ali. So that's why they want to cut off Imam Ali. Oh, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Allah's book is sufficient for us. Hasbuna kitab Allah. We don't need you. And that's why when they left Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, they ended up into these contradictions. Like God is up, God is down, God has face, God has hand, all these kind of things. Because Ahlul Bayt, they explained that these are all metaphors. They took it literally. Why? Because they left Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. They left the teacher. That's why, see, they took the allegorical verses like Arsh. They say there's a throne, like the king's throne, and it has this much legs. Legs are like the legs of the chair. From where did you get that? You know, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam did not say that Allah sits on the chair and he has, come on, I mean, this is from where they left Ahlul Bayt. They took these ideologies from the Christian and the Jewish people who have converted to Islam, and they started to bring their fabricated stuff into the Islamic literature. That's why we ended up into having these ahadith where we can see the God. God will be on the day of judgment. He'll be sitting on the throne. This, that, all this. When you look at these ahadith and you look at the Christian literature, you see there's not a big difference. Just they remove Jesus and they remove God and the names and all this kind of thing. So approaching to Ahlul Bayt. So that's why the allegorical verses. One of the reasons that allegorical verses exist. So that we can approach the proper people, and in our approaching, it will be appreciation to them. Another reason, there are so many reasons, I'll not go in detail. Another reason is that some of the because Qur'an was not for the time of the Prophet ﷺ, is until the day of judgment. Some of the verses in the Qur'an were allegorical for those people, but now they have become clear. Like the movement of the mountains. The movement of the mountains, Arabs, they thought, how can a mountain move, you know? It's something we cannot understand. Nowadays, the science proves it, that the crust of earth is moving. And mountains are on the crust of earth. See, subhanallah, this information was allegorical in one time, and now it is clear verse in this time. So many of the allegorical verses, they become clear after time. And that proves that Qur'an is a living miracle. Qur'an is a living book. It's not dead. Everything is not understood. It needs a lot in order to understand the Qur'an completely. And that's why until the day of judgment, Qur'an will release its secrets one after another, time after time. So the allegorical verses, they were allegorical one time. When the 12th Imam Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farjahu Sharif comes, there won't be any allegorical verses because he will explain everything. Most of those will be explained by the time, and you can see every day after day. Like they used to say, what is Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq? Say, I seek refuge to the Lord of Split. They said it's the dawn. The dawn splits out from the night. But if you take the science, you can have a deep meaning. You can have the meaning of creation. The whole Lord of the creation. Say, I seek refuge from the Lord of the creation, from the evil of His creation. Because Allah did not create evil. The creations, they either choose evil or choose that. So see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now it fits. How can you say, Lord of the split is Lord of the creation? Easy. So take the scientific information. Split, we see everything is created by split. I can just give you one example and then you can think about it. How? Like the human life, it comes from the split. You see the egg, when it's fertilized, it splits into 2, 4, split. the living the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're all formed from splitting cells after cells. Even the sperm is created from the splitting of the cells. So all these creations, so living being, okay, how can you say the non-living things are also by the split? Well, look at everything. Like for example, water. Water is created. We have acid, we have alkaloid, we make a reaction between them, we'll have water, and this happened by splitting the molecules. We got water, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we have created everything live from water. So there are, if you can see, even the matter, like whenever the chemicals happen, either the electron splits, either the nucleus splits, there is always a kind of split, either on the level of electron or on the level of molecule or on the level of atom. So the whole creation, there's some kind of split in it. So I can easily say the Lord of the split means Lord of the creation. So that time it may be allegorical, but the science told us that no, split, everything has split in it, you know. So you can literally say everything. So this is the allegorical verses in the Qur'an, which the literal meaning is unknown to other than the infallibles, alayhimus salatu wasalam, because there is no such thing in the Qur'an which the infallible cannot understand. Such as the beginning of the verses of letters of some verses, like Alif, Lam, Mim. Some of them, if you contemplate in the Qur'an, you might have the meaning. Alif, Lam, Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That is the book. So Alif, Lam, Mim, that means Alif, Lam, Mim is a book of guidance. So Alif, Lam, Mim could be another name of the Holy Qur'an, because the book of guidance, or some weak ahadith mention Alif, Lam, Mim is Al-Muhammad, because Al-Muhammad is a book also of knowledge, is a source of knowledge. There is no doubt that it's a source of knowledge of guidance. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There's no doubt in it that it is the hudan lil muttaqeen, that in it there's guidance for those people who observe displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or taqwa, or they fear displeasing Allah. Taqwa. So see, even the Alif, Lam, Mim, it's allegorical. No, try to. So there is a possibility. And some of the ulama say that these are encrypted things. When the 12th Imam will come, these are like encrypted knowledge. The 12th Imam will come and open these encrypted shells, which will be beneficial for the end time and after that end time, which were not understood for the people in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So as I mentioned, that allegorical verses are not allegorical to the infallibles, and even regular verses, they might be relatively allegorical. Maybe there are some verses, to me, they're allegorical, but to the Allama Tabatabai, they are simple verses and understandable verses. So this term mutashabih is relatively, it's a relative term, that maybe something is mutashabih to somebody and not mutashabih to other person. There are relatively allegorical, some might become clear after time, some indicate the requirement and the importance of an infallible teacher. Literal and metaphorical meaning we mentioned when we gave the example of lion. How all this is how to understand the Holy Quran, because our sessions will be tafsir of the Quran. Before entering that tafsir, I want you to understand these concepts, because when I start doing tafsir of the Quran, these things will ring a bell in your mind. You know that what is mutashabih, what is muhkam. A word might have two meanings: an apparent meaning, which is understood by the listener without the use of qarina or clue to the context. Metaphorical, if the speakers want the listener to take the metaphorical meaning of his word, then he must provide a qarina. Such qarina could be verbal or non-verbal, intellectual or circumstantial. We mentioned this example. For example, when I say in the jungle the lion is coming, your mind will go to the real beast. Unless if I say he's coming singing a song or saying adhan, maybe you will say, oh, this roar sound might be metaphorically adhan. Okay, he's carrying bags of potatoes and tomatoes, you know. Come on, like lion coming, it must be a cartoonic lion or a human being who's brave, you know. So I gave you some words. Sometimes no. The qarina could be circumstantial. Like we are sitting in this hall and there is no zoo surrounding us, there is no lion escaping in the zoo, and the door is closed, I'll say that the lion is coming. Of course you will not think of a beast, you know, and especially the door is closed, like, and it's locked and it requires finger to open, maybe the lion can try to open. But come on, I mean, there's no qarina that it could be a real lion. In fact, the qarina circumstances which we live in, it's a brave person. Or logical, when I mentioned about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or ask the city. So we explained this concept. The qarina for understanding the words of the Qur'an, and here is our, what are the qara'in? We need to understand the qarina. The first qarina clue to the meaning of the Qur'an and to take the concept is from the Qur'an itself. Al-Qur'an ba'duhu yufassiru ba'dan. So the first approach is take the Qur'an. Nowadays you have concordances, you have those search. Just put the word of the Qur'an and see all the ayat which has the same word and try to make a reaction in between these ayat. This is the best way to understand and have a complete meaning of the Qur'an. We are going to explain this inshallah, and we are going to take so many examples. In fact, our tafsir sessions will be all like this. We'll try to understand Qur'an from the Qur'an mostly. Maybe sometimes we might bring some hadith, but mostly we'll see how Qur'an explains the Qur'an itself. Ayat explains the ayat itself. So, an authentic hadith, and then the system of language, dictionary of the terminology, practice in the time of the Prophet, because the words, they go through several stages of change. A word had a meaning in the time of the Prophet, now sallallahu alaihi wasallam, now it has a different meaning. So these meanings, they go, the meanings, they change. And inshallah we'll take some of the examples of that later on. And non-verbal is logical qarina. We mentioned that فَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةِ, ask the city. How can I ask the city? Logically, you cannot ask the city. So it has to be what? It has to be people of the city. Logically, you cannot see God. So it has to be the bounties of God or different other meaning. So we mentioned the example of seeing the Qur'an. And finally, we'll end up with this tafsir with knowledge and tafsir without knowledge. We mentioned tafsir of the Qur'an with knowledge, you are safe side. Without knowledge, choose the place in the hellfire. Tafsir is something which is not understanding the literal meaning. No, it's below. The best tafsir is explanation of the Qur'an by Qur'an. The next best is the explanation of the Qur'an by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, the hadith. After that, the jurists, the scholars who studied and understood the lifestyle and the knowledge of the infallibles, such as Ibn Abbas, the student of Imam Ali, or Allama Tabatabai. Ibn Abbas has a tafsir. But why do we take his tafsir? Because we know that he was a loyal and sincere student of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam after the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So therefore, if Ibn Abbas gives a tafsir and that hadith is authentic, we can rely on the tafsir of Ibn Abbas. Or any mujtahid, Allama Tabatabai, or all those great scholars who were deep into understanding the Holy Quran. Now, the jurist might refer to linguistic system or the history to interpret the verses of the Quran. As next week we are going to take examples. How do we explain the Quran by language, by dictionary? How do we understand the Quran by history? How do we understand the Quran by hadith? And even we can take an example or several examples, because our whole sessions will be tafsir al-Qur'ani bil-Quran. The jurist might use the logic and the intellectual approach in interpreting the verses of the Holy Quran. And this thing is not considered tafsir bil-ra'i. When you use logic, like logical rules, logical concept, it is not considered man fassara ayah, man fassara al-Qur'ana bi ra'yihi. Whoever does Quran, tafsir of Quran with his mere opinion, then he is also condemned, he will go to hell also. This is not mere opinion. When you use logic, logical concept, this is not mere opinion. So what is the forbidden tafsir? Tafsir without knowledge. If a person is not a scholar or profound in understanding the Quran or authentic narrations or the arts of Arabic language, this is very important. So you need what? You need understanding the Quran. You need understanding the narrations, the authentication of narrations, ilm al-hadith and ilm al-rijal. You need arts of Arabic language, grammar, eloquence and metaphors, etymology, the structure of the Arabic word, terminology. You need to know the terminology. What did it mean in the time of the Prophet? What does it mean now? You need to have this kind of thing. and the Arabic literature, or the history of the Quran's descent. Asbab al-Nuzul, when was this ayat descended, on whom it was descended, all these kind of things play a big role to give the proper meaning of the Quran. Besides that, if a person uses his mere opinion without any intellectual or professional base, like he's not a professional, he's not a mujtahid, he's not expert in interpretation of the Quran or educational background, then it is considered mere personal opinion, which is forbidden. Some of the times the Sahabas and Khulafas, in order to support the tyrant, support the wrong political system, they used to interpret the Quran because of this political influence. Like they said, Waliul Amr is Muawiyah, Yazid and all these people. Come on, you know, how can these be Waliul Amr? So these people, they said, okay, any Khalifa is Waliul Amr. You have to listen to them. They're good, they're bad, support them. Quote unquote, support the tyrant. This was rejected by Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu. This is mere opinion because checks were written to give this kind of opinion. Checks, those times the checks were like a bunch of bags with golds and silvers. Those were the checks of that time. So interpreting Quran under political influence or immoral influence or any other cause, factor or influence other than the mentioned above is forbidden. Many women, they come. Quran tells clearly the ayat of hijab. They say, no, this is metaphorical hijab. What is your clue to the context? We need qarina. They are sitting just, had a little bit of knowledge here and there, and they are claiming to be mufassirin, and they say, no, hijab is like inside hijab, not outside. Outside hijab is oppression, suppression to the woman. Come on, I mean, who are you? Ayatullah fabricator? So anyhow, these kind of things are available everywhere. And finally, we will end to this slide because next session, inshallah, will take examples of the different types of tafsir of the Holy Quran. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the inspiration to implement the ayat and the ahadith of the Quran and whatever we learn, and to give us the knowledge of the treasures, hidden treasures of the Quran. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi al-tahirin.